After my husband died, I moved closer to be near my daughter. Her husband told me, "You can visit, but don't get comfortable." One day I dropped off a pie and heard him say, "Your mom's just a sad old burden." She didn't say a word. I left without saying goodbye. A year later, they walked into a room and froze when they saw me sitting with. When my husband Mark died, a big part of me died with him. We were married 42 years. That man knew how to love me, even when I was at my worst. He called me his safe place, and I called him my anchor. We weren't flashy or perfect, but we were solid. He got sick in 2020. Pancreatic cancer? We tried everything. But if you've been through it, you know, it's like watching someone fade day by day until they're not themselves anymore. When it was over, the house felt like a tomb. I couldn't stand being in it. Every chair, every mug, even the dent in the carpet where his recliner used to sit, everything screamed he's not here anymore. Our daughter Alexis lived in Cheyenne with her husband Scott and their 2 little boys, Henry and Colton. She was my only child. I figured if I had any chance of feeling needed again, it would be near her. I called her one afternoon and said, "Lexi, I'm thinking about selling the house and moving closer. Not in your space, just nearby." She said, "Mom, yeah, of course. You'd love being near the boys." So I did it. Packed up 40 years of memories, sold the house in Billings, and moved into a small rental, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. Just 20 minutes from Alexis's house. That first week, I dropped by with cookies for the boys. Scott answered the door. He smiled, but it didn't touch his eyes. Said, "Hey Nancy," in a way that made it sound like I was early for a party I wasn't invited to. He let me in, but I felt like a guest in a stranger's house. Over the next few weeks, I tried being helpful. I'd bring over dinner, offer to babysit, show up with puzzles or books for the boys. Alexis always seemed glad to see me, but Scott? He acted like I was slowly taking over his turf. Then one day, I came by to drop off a pie. Apple cinnamon, the kind Alexis used to ask for every year on her birthday. She hadn't answered my calls that day, but I thought she might be in the backyard with the kids or just busy. I had a key she gave me when I moved. So I let myself in. I heard voices from the kitchen, Scott and Alexis. I stopped in the hallway. Something in his tone made me pause. He was saying, "She's here too much. She acts like she's part of this house now. She's just a sad old burden. You better not let her think this is going to be a regular thing." I waited. I kept waiting. I thought Alexis would defend me. Say something. Anything. But she didn't. She was quiet. That silence felt like a knife. I turned around. I didn't say anything. I walked out, put the pie on the front step, and went home. That was it. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't show up. They didn't call either. Not once. Not even for the boys' birthdays. It was like I stopped existing. I cried for a week straight. Not because of Scott, he was always cold. But because my own daughter didn't say a word. Not even one. The days started blending together. I joined a walking group. Started volunteering at the library. Tried to act like I was fine. Then one day, a man named Dr. Elijah Brent came to speak at the library. He ran a nonprofit for young adults trying to get their GEDs and escape tough home lives. He mentioned they were looking for older adults who could mentor. I figured, why not? It would give me something to do. It saved me. That group became like a second family. Elijah, he was sharp but kind. The kids called me Miss Nancy. They listened to my advice, they thanked me, they made me feel useful. Months passed. Then came the big fundraising banquet. We rented out a community center downtown. I helped plan it. We had over 100 people show up. I sat at the head table with Elijah and the board. That's when they walked in. Scott and Alexis. I was mid-laugh, telling Elijah about my lemon bars, when I looked up and saw them walk through the doors. They froze. Alexis went pale. Scott's fake smile cracked. I didn't say a thing. I just looked at them. And kept talking like I didn't know them. They kept their distance the whole night. You could feel the tension like a wall. Scott kept glancing my way, trying to figure out why I was at the front with the board. Turns out Scott's company had become one of the corporate donors. He had no idea I was part of the organization. 3 weeks later, Alexis showed up at my door. She looked tired. She'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back in a way that screamed, "I'm trying to hold it together." I let her in. She sat on the couch, held her coffee with shaking hands. Then she said, "Scott's getting worse. He yells a lot. At the boys. At me. He drinks more now. I don't know what to do." I asked her. Why are you telling me this now? She cried. Said she was sorry for not standing up for me. Said she was scared back then. That she's still scared. I told her. You watched him call me a burden. And you didn't say a word. She nodded. I know. And I hate myself for it. She asked for help. Said she didn't want her boys growing up thinking that kind of man was normal. I stared at her for a long time. Then I said, I'll help. But not for you. For them. And that's when everything changed. I didn't just want to help her. I wanted him to feel everything I'd felt. Every ounce of humiliation. Every bit of being unwanted. And I had a plan. After Alexis left that night, I sat at the table for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt cold. She had let a man humiliate me in my most vulnerable moment, and said nothing. And now that the same man was making her life hell, she wanted me to clean it up. Still, I couldn't turn my back on my grandsons. Those boys didn't ask for this. So I started planning. I didn't tell Alexis what I was doing. I just told her. Keep quiet. Keep acting normal. And start saving any evidence. Screenshots. Recordings. Keep them backed up and hidden. At the same time, I went to Elijah. I told him part of the truth. That my daughter's husband was abusive, and had power in the community. That I wanted to help her leave him but needed support. He didn't ask for all the details. He just said, What do you need? So I got to work. First, I found out Scott's company was one of our foundation's gold sponsors. That meant he attended events, used the nonprofit for PR, posted pictures online about giving back. But what he didn't know was that our team had started a new domestic support program for young mothers. We had therapists, legal aid, even safe housing options through church partnerships. I got Alexis connected to them, quietly. She met with a counselor off-site, never used her real name. They gave her a burner phone. Taught her how to erase texts. While that was happening, I did some digging on Scott. Turns out, he wasn't the golden boy he acted like. He had 2 complaints against him at work for verbal aggression, buried deep in HR files. One woman had filed for stress leave after working under him for just 6 months. Even worse, I found a public record of a restraining order from a woman in Colorado, dated 5 years before he met Alexis. It had expired, but it was still there. I printed it all. Every piece. Kept copies at the foundation office. Kept one in my safe. Shared a set with Alexis's attorney. Yes, we had one now. Then something unexpected happened. Scott showed up at my house. It was 6:45 p.m. I was eating dinner. Knock on the door, hard. I looked through the peephole. It was him. I opened it just enough to show my face. Didn't invite him in? He said. I know what you're doing. I stared at him. Do you? He smirked, but it looked fake. His eye twitched a little. He said, She's my wife. You think you can come between us? You think you can ruin me? I didn't flinch. I said, You ruined yourself. He leaned in. Real close. You better stop, or I swear to God. That's when I cut him off. I said, You're being recorded. And I tapped the doorframe, where a small blinking red light was very visible. He froze. Then turned and walked away without another word. The next morning, I sent the footage to Elijah and our lawyer. They logged it, just in case. 2 weeks later, Alexis filed for a protection order. We had everything lined up. A new place for her and the boys, legal aid, and 2 witnesses ready to testify about his behavior, one from work, one from the church group he used to manipulate. That's when Scott really started to unravel. He called her nonstop. Showed up at the boys' school. Got himself banned from the property. Tried to smear her online, saying she was mentally unstable. Claimed I had poisoned her against him. But the truth was louder. And more solid. People started talking. Some women from church came forward quietly, telling us stories about things he'd said, done, how he controlled Alexis, how he screamed at the kids when no one else was around. Then one day, a woman named Tara reached out. She was the ex who'd filed the restraining order years ago. She was living in Colorado Springs. Had a kid. Said she'd testify if it came to that. Alexis's lawyer brought the hammer down hard. Scott was served with papers requesting supervised visitation only, citing emotional abuse, threats, and endangerment. His company found out. They suspended him during the investigation. Word spread. He tried to act like none of it mattered. Posted selfies. Pretended to be the victim. But the cracks were showing. And I wasn't done. Because what Scott didn't know, what almost no one knew, was that he had left his work laptop at Alexis's house the night she kicked him out. And he had never changed the password. And what I found on that laptop, that changed everything. The day Alexis handed me Scott's old work laptop, she looked nervous. "He left it," she said, setting it down on my kitchen table. "He hasn't even asked about it." I stared at it. "Plain gray Dell. Nothing fancy." I asked. "Does he know you have it?" She shook her head. "No. I didn't tell anyone. Not even the boys." I opened it and powered it on. He never changed his password from the one Alexis guessed, the name of his favorite football team, all lowercase, no numbers. Idiot. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. But I knew Scott. And I knew men like him rarely cleaned up after themselves. I opened his emails. Most were work-related, boring. But then I found a folder labeled DNR. Inside it, buried under spreadsheets and junk, were saved downloads, PDFs, screenshots, scanned receipts. That's when I found it. A wire transfer record. 2 years ago. $3,500 sent to a Chase A. Keller. I googled the name. No LinkedIn. No real presence. But it popped up once, on a county record for a DUI. And next to it? Scott listed as the emergency contact. There was also an old mugshot. I saved it. Then another file, a screenshot of a private Venmo exchange. Scott had paid someone with a note. "Just get it done." That made my stomach turn. There was also a blurry photo of my car. Parked. In my driveway. I froze. It was dated the same month I moved to Cheyenne. Why would Scott have a photo of my car? Why would he save it? I dug deeper. There were text logs. Chat history saved from his work app. One stood out. "Scott. She's nosy and weak. I want her scared enough to stay out of our way. Chase. Say the word. Scott. Make sure she sees it." That night, I remembered something. A week after I moved to town, I found my back gate wide open. I thought it was the wind. Another night, the side window in the kitchen had a crack. I figured it was a bird. I told myself I was paranoid because I was grieving. But now I wasn't so sure. I called Elijah. He brought in one of the lawyers and a retired cop who volunteered with our nonprofit. We showed them everything. They told us this was more than family drama now. This was targeted intimidation. They took the files and brought them to the DA. 2 weeks later, Chase Keller was arrested on unrelated charges. Drugs and parole violation. While he was in custody, they pulled his phone. And guess what? He had pictures of my house, my car, my neighborhood, and texts from Scott telling him to scare the old woman into keeping her distance. Turns out, Scott hired someone to intimidate me when I first moved. So that I'd feel unwelcome. So that I'd leave Alexis alone. He wanted control. Of everything. And he wanted me gone. When I told Alexis, she fell apart. She kept saying, "I'm so sorry." I should have known. I should have stopped it. I told her, "You're stopping it now. That's what matters." The police launched an investigation. The Foundation's legal team gave everything to the right people. It wasn't long before word got around that Scott wasn't just a controlling husband, he was dangerous. His company didn't suspend him this time. They fired him. Elijah made sure our board cut off all ties with them publicly. And Chase? He turned on Scott. Cut a deal. Gave them everything. Text screenshots, payment receipts, even voice messages. I'll never forget hearing Scott's voice say, "She's a problem. I want her to feel it." He was talking about me. The DA added charges for conspiracy to intimidate and harassment. Civil court wasn't far behind. But even with all of this closing in on him, Scott still had one more move left. He tried to turn the boys against Alexis. Told them, "Grandma and Mommy are liars. They just want to hurt Daddy." And for a while, it worked. Little Henry didn't want to come out of his room. Colton cried when Scott didn't show up on his birthday. Alexis was crushed. She said, "He's going to poison them against me. Just like he did with you." I told her. "Then we fight back with truth, with patience, and with proof." So we did. We brought in a child therapist. A calm, kind man who used stories to help the boys understand what was safe and what wasn't. He taught them that love doesn't mean fear. That yelling isn't strength. That lies don't protect. It took time. Months. But I watched it shift. Henry started laughing again. Colton stopped flinching when someone knocked on the door. And Alexis, she started breathing like a free woman. But the court case was coming. And I knew that for real justice, I had to do more than survive. I had to speak. So I made a decision. I was going to testify. The day I took the stand, the courtroom felt cold. I wore Mark's old wedding band on a chain around my neck. I needed to feel strong. Like someone was standing beside me. Scott was there. Sitting next to his lawyer, acting like nothing could touch him. His hair slicked back, wearing a suit 2 sizes too expensive for a man with no job and a court case hanging over him. He smirked when I walked past him. But I didn't even blink. I sat in that witness box and told the truth. All of it. I told the court how I moved to be near my daughter after losing my husband of 42 years. How Scott made me feel unwelcome from day one. How I brought a pie to their home and overheard him call me a sad old burden. How my daughter said nothing. I told them about the laptop. The photos of my car. The messages where he told someone to scare me. I told them how I stayed silent for a year until Alexis came to me broken and afraid, and how we built the case piece by piece. I told them what kind of man Scott really was. Scott's lawyer tried to twist it. Said I was emotionally unstable from losing my husband. That I had a vendetta. He even tried to paint Alexis as dramatic, emotional, easily influenced. But they underestimated one thing. We had receipts. Every document, every voice message, every screenshot. Chase Keller testified. Tara, the woman from Scott's past, testified too. She told the court how he used to threaten her, gaslight her, isolate her. When Alexis took the stand, she told them how she lost her voice for years. How she believed Scott because he chipped away at her self-worth a little at a time. How she let him talk down to her mother in front of their kids. And how that silence became a wall between us. She cried. I did too. But not from weakness. From release. The court ordered full custody to Alexis. Supervised visitation only. For 1 hour, twice a month, in a monitored center. If he misses one, he loses the next 2. The criminal charges were still pending, but the civil court slammed him with a harassment judgment. He had to pay damages. His name was public record now. But that wasn't the end. The nonprofit Elijah and I worked for? We held a press conference. Not about Scott by name, but about how men in positions of power use image and money to hide abuse. We launched a new outreach program named after my late husband, the Mark Initiative, to support women over 50 escaping domestic control and family abandonment. Donations flooded in. We raised over $200,000 in 6 months. Scott tried to sue for defamation. His case was thrown out in under 15 minutes. Last I heard, he moved back in with his sister in Rapid City. Can't find steady work. No one in town will touch him. The community he used to smile at turned its back on him. And for once, he was the one feeling small. Alexis? She's healing. Slowly. She got a part-time job at a local bookstore. Joined a support group. Henry and Colton are doing better every day. They call me Nana now without hesitation. As for me? I forgave Alexis. Eventually. But I never let her forget. I told her. The day you stayed silent was the day you told him I didn't matter. Don't ever do that to someone again. She nodded. And she meant it. Sometimes, when I think back to that hallway moment, the pie, the silence, I still feel a knot in my chest. But it's not pain anymore. It's a reminder. A reminder that being quiet to keep the peace is what lets poison grow. You want to know what real revenge looks like? It's not yelling. It's not fighting back with fists. It's staying calm. It's collecting facts. It's surviving when someone wanted you to vanish. It's taking everything they tried to break, and turning it into something that can't be ignored. It's sitting in a courtroom while the man who tried to destroy your family watches his world crumble, one truth at a time. And it's walking out of that room taller than you've ever stood in your life.